Hi, David Paul here. This is just a quickie on a boat here. I'm just walking down the canal here in the UK, and I see this boat, and it strikes me it's looking rather fresh. A lot of these boats were built about 100 years ago. It's Dutch, that's for sure, and it is in such good condition. So I'm kind of like asking questions in my mind about this. It's what you call a Tjalk, but this is a funny one because it's kind of got Lemsteraak kind of looks to it. A Tjalk is kind of like a bar of soap that's gotten worn with using the bar of soap. So it's kind of got squarish ends. So it's not like fully rounded. Whereas a Lemsteraak is a lot more rounded. So I'm confused about this. I'm not a great expert on Dutch boats. I just happen to love them, you know. So I wouldn't be able to say exactly what kind of boat this one is. Anyway, what strikes me about this is it looks just so fresh and well made, well in good condition. There are a few little tiny scrapes, but they're just paint scrapes, and there are no dents or anything. And often these boats around the gunnel, the edge, the leading edge here, the sheer, they will have like sort of impact pocket like dents in them, and this one is perfect. It's perfect. And on top of that, you've got this coach roof thing on the top here, which is absolutely immaculate. So that's confusing as well. So I would think that possibly this coach roof work is recent and has been fitted later, or which could be really, which is possible, it's just an entirely new construction. Because I noticed that there are like things like winches which are absent here. There are certain things that have never been put on. Well, they're not on the boat, and they're not like scars there indicating where they used to be. There's usually like a hand winch, like a circular thing for raising and lowering the mast, and that's usually left as a residue when people take the masts off. But I noticed there is no evidence of a mast on the top there, although that coach roof stuff could be new, in which case it wouldn't have that evidence there. So it's very confusing. But what I will say about her is she's gorgeous. There's a company in the Netherlands, in Holland, and they are still producing Lemsteraaks and Tjalks, and you tell them and they'll make it for you, you know. And so maybe it's been just recently made, I don't know. But if it hasn't been recently made, it's in extremely good condition. Now here's an interesting point here. Can you persuade sailors to have these things? These are called lee boards, and they stop the side movement of the boat when it's under sail. Okay, so you drop your lee board in there on the side opposite the wind, where the wind's coming from, the leeward side, and stops you being pushed sideways. And the advantage of it is that you can raise it when you're in shallow water, and that's it, you know. So, and you don't have a keel to trip over or anything like that. And in rough seas, you could actually drop both of them, and they could provide you with a terrific amount of damping, create a lot of drag. But what would you care, you know, if you're in the middle of a storm? So personally, I'm a great fan of these lee boards, and I see no reason why they can't be used on modern boats. And if people just don't like the look of them, I'm sure that they could be incorporated into the hull so that you wouldn't even see them. There is an alternative to lee boards, which is called a centre board, which is in the centre, obviously. And the problem with that is it intrudes in the accommodation of the boat. And also it can be prone to leaks and this, that, the other, and jamming and whatnot. With these babies, it's out there, you can see what's wrong with it, you can work on it, you can do what you like. It won't get filled with sands and barnacles and God knows what. It's just there, you know, what you see is what you get, and it's there to be maintained. I like things where they don't hide secrets, so that you know that you can fix stuff. So anyway, I'll have a look forward. I mean, this is what I'm about: alternative living and boats and cabins and renovating houses and stuff. So that's why I'm making this video, despite the fact that I no longer live on a boat. I still have my little boat though, which is in storage and she'll be coming out. So there you go. I hope I don't offend the guy by taking a video of his boat. I can't imagine why anybody would be offended by people, you know, videoing something and saying how wonderful and whatever beautiful something is. So there you go. But it's just, we live in a strange world these days. Massive big, what they call a barn door rudder. It's a huge rudder, and the reason for that is it provides a tremendous amount of force lift for when you're moving at very low velocities down the Dutch canals. But look at the rear end on that, eh? Isn't that gorgeous? As I've said many times in previous videos, I really hate transoms, the cut off sterns of boats, and this one hasn't got a transom. And that is just pretty much, that is about as good as it ever gets. It really is. I hope one day to own a boat like this. I'm going to measure her with my feet. I'll roughly measure her and I'll put it in the description below when I upload this video, because I don't know quite how. I think she's deceptively large. I don't think she's as big as I think she is, you know, but I'm gonna have to measure her to find out. It's the only way. My feet are about 1 foot long, so I'll just pace it along the side of the canal. Well, there you go. Well, it's kind of like, I suppose you could say, it's like if the Lemsteraak and a Tjalk had a baby, it would produce something like this. Oh, one little thing about the, or a big thing in a sense, about the lee boards on this. One of the key things you'll get with a Lemsteraak and not with a Tjalk is that this big sort of pear-shaped lee board is characteristic of an inland boat because they move at very low velocities. So in order to get enough lift, like the rudder, they need to be big. So that would be kind of like having a big full keel underneath. Now, if you have a Lemsteraak, what normally happens is this part here is more cut away, and you're kind of looking at something that looks like a pair of lollipop sticks or dragonfly wings or something. More cut off at the end here, a bit more squared off at the end, but much thinner, about half as thin as that. And the reason for that is because they're out at sea and they're moving at full speed and they don't need so much lift. But you know, with a big boat on canals and side winds and this, that and the other, in Holland say, you definitely do need something that's going to stop you being pushed sideways. These things were eventually superseded by another kind of boat called a Lux motor. Is there one? There was a one around here like that, and I had a friend who had one. Personally, I don't like them because they've got a spiky front, and I don't like that. I don't know why they ever switched to that design. Maybe they're going out to sea and they felt they wanted something to cut through waves. But personally, I would never advise the Dutch about anything about boats. They're geniuses. Just listen to what they got to say. But this bow is incredible. You see, you can imagine if it was a Lemsteraak and you're out at sea in a thing like this and it buries its nose into a wave, it is just not going to go down. This thing's going to stay on top of the water and float like a cork, or anything, you know, like whether it's this or whatever. There's a guy called Tom Cunliffe, and he's a fella you should really listen to, because he's very knowledgeable and he's a nice guy as well. And I've had little sort of email type comments come back from him. But he reviewed a boat from my area of the country called a corbel. And the thing about the corbel was it had a very sharp bow at the front here. It had a very sharp bow. And the idea was is you could push it off from the shore, and it would dig its bow into the waves, and you could bring it round and you could like head off into the waves, and it wouldn't get sort of slewed around by the waves. It's kind of like a keel like behaviour, but at the front of the wave. So I thought about this and I thought, oh man, you've got a point there, you know. Maybe these Dutch boats just don't have it, like, you know, maybe that's one disadvantage of this rounded bow, you know. But the Dutch, being the Dutch, they got there before us. If you look down the bottom there, what do you see? But there's inside that boat there is a keel which carries on forward, and it comes out external to the boat, but it does not protrude down into the water, it protrudes outwards. And what that creates is, in effect, a sort of kind of like having a rudder at the front of the boat, or a bow thruster of some sort, and that's digging in. So personally, I think we could get all the benefits of the corbel of digging into the waves and heading off without having to resort to pointy bows, which is something in the next boat I have after my little tiddler will be a rounded shaped boat. You see, the thing that concerns me with sailing boats is that, and I've thought this out for a long time, is there's nothing to worry about at sea apart from getting thrown around and stuff, so long as you don't sink or get overwhelmed with water and you start getting hypothermia or something. But generally, if the damn thing floats, and if you can take being thrown around, you're going to survive. But the big thing is with safety is not hitting hard things, i.e. other boats will get out of their way, and the other thing is not hitting the hard things, which are the land, the leeward side. So a lee shore, the shore that you're going to get blown onto. So I've given this a lot of thought, this lee shore issue, because it doesn't matter what the hell you do out at sea. You can plod along and you can take forever to get somewhere, you know. But if you crash into something hard, i.e. like the cliffs of Wales or somewhere like that, and you ram into a load of granite, you're screwed. You know, you're eventually going to get overcome and battered to bits. So, thinking this through, that's why you can watch the video of Tom Cunliffe's on a thing called the dipping lug. And the dipping lug rig was made to be powerful, and it's kind of like the intention is to be able to drag trawl nets and all kinds of things like that. It needed to be powerful, and it's very powerful. It's kind of like, the comparison I would make is like you got a nice family saloon and you're out with the family in the family saloon, Ford Fiesta or something like that, or even a flashy car like a Ferrari or something. But you end up in a pickle, you end up in a bad situation where you're in a ditch or this or that, the other, or the terrain is just not suitable. What would you rather prefer? Would you prefer to have a Land Rover, let's say a Land Rover Defender? And I'd rather have the Land Rover Defender. That's going to get me out of trouble. Now, getting into trouble at sea is a question of life and death. Getting into trouble with your car, if it just breaks down, is you could walk away from that situation, you know. But you need to get away in that boat. So basically, you need the Land Rover version of that, and that to me says a nice powerful lug sail, not a Chinese junk rig, I don't really rate those highly. It's a dipping lug, and that's the sail that I will have on my present boat when I take it out of storage. I'm going to convert to that, and also a sail I would recommend to anybody. And forget about all this like flash hurry, charging around quickly sort of stuff. To me, the pleasure of a boat is getting somewhere interesting and being there. You know, you could be in, well, if you had a boat, you could be in Tenerife, or you could be in Lanzarote, or you could be in Portugal, and all you have to do is move the thing. And you can't do that with a house. That's the unique thing about a boat. So the pleasure of it is to be at the destination, and to some extent the sailing, you know, a little bit. But I like, maybe I'm a log cabin type, you know, and I just want the ability to move the log cabin, i.e. the boat. So there you go. There's a final look at the rear end on that. I know I've talked a long time about this, but there are reasons why, you know, I think things, and if somebody's considering having a boat, maybe they should consider these things. This boat, by the way, as a result of having its fat ends, front and stern, is that you get a lot more accommodation. And my guesstimation is that you would get a third more usable space in a boat if it's of a Dutch style than you would a normal pointed boat, because you have to bear in mind, you know, when you pull into a marina, you're paying by the length. So these spiky boats, every time I see a spiky boat, I just think, what can you do with, you know, that bow light? You probably put a few, I don't know, stick an anchor chain in it or something, and a couple of sails. It's not very useful. Whereas this thing, the forward accommodation in this will be enormous, be huge. It'll be a very spacious boat inside. Anyway, God bless the fella for looking after this, because he's or woman, but I bet it's a bloke. That person is doing a great job. So there you go. There's no name on this boat. I wonder if she is new. Okay. Paalam. Adios. Goodbye. Jesus be with you.